Now, this is the portrait of the killer. The last piece of evidence to me, which is maybe the most damning about the killer, is this. We have all seen that there were multiple people who were local that seemed to have had advanced knowledge of the attack. There were not just a few people who on X and on TikTok seemed to have telegraphed the attack in advance. And there were multiple posts from different users that were connected in one way or another to the killer that said, if Charlie Kirk shows up, he will be liquidated. Something will happen big tomorrow. Don't show up to the campus. Now, if someone had advanced knowledge and they were broadcasting it that confidently and that openly, that's a sloppy job. That is a sloppy job, and that does look like there was a tranny furry meetup at Robinson's house. Maybe they had a big tranny orgy, and they toasted their ally who was going to take out the Nazi Charlie Kirk. What a ridiculous sentiment. Charlie Kirk was anything but a Nazi. And then they could not help themselves. They bragged about it. He took the shot. They felt remorse, put out their alibi. He drove home, got nervous, opened up his big fat mouth, went and turned himself in, and then heard they were talking about the death penalty, maybe talked to a public defender. Now he doesn't want to cooperate. Maybe he thinks he could get a deal. That is certainly one story. But here is the thing about the official narrative. We cannot take any of these things for granted. These are the questions that need to be answered. These are the discrepancies. What did Discord know? When did they know it? Why did they say that there were no messages? Is it because they were being weaselly and the attack was not coordinated on Discord, even though clearly the killer was talking about it on Discord? Is that what they meant? Or did something change in the past week? We need to know that. Who were these out-of-state license plates at his residence prior to the attack? What were these posts that seemed to have had advanced knowledge of the attack? Who were the people that he confessed to on Discord, and who was involved in the Discord communities with him? What were the names of the communities? We need to have all of the available footage, all of the security cameras, all of the ring cameras. We need to see the footage. How did he get from point A to point B? How did he get from his house to the campus and from his campus back to the house? We need to see that chain of custody. We need to see all of the evidence. Otherwise, we cannot take any of it for granted. With that being said, I do believe that is probably the most plausible explanation. I'm a rational person, and like I said, looking at the layout of the campus, unfortunately, when you realize that security is not always competent, these are things that sometimes do happen. There is a left wing in this country. It is extremely radical. There are young people in this country that are being radicalized on the internet. That's real. It happens all the time. The same day as the shooting against Charlie Kirk, there was a school shooting in Denver by a 16-year-old white male who was obsessed with Columbine. And that had nothing to do with Israel, and that had, to the extent that we know, that had no geopolitical ramifications. And that was on the heels of a transsexual that shot up a Catholic church in Minnesota last week, and a black fellow that shot up people in Tennessee in January, and a tranny that shot up a Catholic school in Wisconsin a few months before that. There is a problem here. There is clearly a problem, as everyone has admitted, of these communities on the internet, young people that are spending way too much time on them, carrying out acts of violence in the name of various ideologies, irony, nihilism. And maybe this was a part of that. Certainly these are things that happen. It's an explanation that's worth entertaining. But we do need to iron out all those inconsistencies and discrepancies. We need all the information. I want to move on to the theory that Israel was somehow involved. I'm going to be upfront with you. I find this to be unconvincing. And I will explain in rigorous detail why.
Yeah, me too. Like immediately with the details I found out, I was like, no, like probably it's like the rule, like the simplest answer or the simplest explanation is it's probably that dude had some tranny girl or boyfriend, whatever, sucking his dick, or the group Discord groups putting stupid ideas into his head, and he chooses to take shit into his own hands in action, chooses to do something, like assassinating Charlie Kirk. It like I don't see. No, Israel was not with this shit. I don't believe. I just don't believe. And if you do believe, like you're kind of just looking for a ghost. You're looking for a boogeyman. This is one time, like I don't know. I don't believe it. But yeah.
When we implicate Israel, or I should say, when Israel implicates itself in various conspiracies, there's usually a reason why. I believe fully that Israel was involved, and the organized Jewish community was involved in many of the great conspiracies of the past 200 years. And I could tell you in one sentence why for each of them. I don't look at a crisis or a tragedy and assume that Israel did it. Contrary to what people like Ben Shapiro say, that I trip on my shoelaces and blame the Jews, I don't rush to judgment and think that Israel is behind every crisis or every disaster or anything. I do believe that Israel was involved in JFK's assassination. Why? Because Lee Harvey Oswald had CIA handlers. James Angleton was running that team of handlers. Many of them were Jewish. And James Angleton is mourned in Israel. He managed the Israeli desk at the CIA. He traded U.S. nuclear secrets to Israel for intelligence on the Soviet Union. Jack Ruby, a Jewish mobster connected to Meyer Lansky that ran guns to Israel, killed Lee Harvey Oswald. Why do I think Israel was involved? That's why. How about the USS Liberty? Well, Israeli fighter jets blew up the ship to cover up their activities in the Six-Day War in 1967. Enough said. At 9/11, why do we believe Israel was involved? Because they were arrested on 9/11. Because a 911 call was placed, and according to FOIA requests, at least 4, but up to 6 Israeli intelligence operatives were arrested, filming the towers collapsing in free fall, apparently with prior knowledge of the attack. And later in the day, Urban Moving Systems was apprehended by police with explosives in their van, and they were released without any incident. When we look at just a survey of the biggest conspiracies of the past 70 years, these are just 3. There's always a connection. We don't start with Israel did it, now here's how we can make it work. We start with the evidence. And we survey the evidence, and if we can find a motive, and if we can find a connection, then we can plausibly create a conjecture or postulate that Israel might be involved. What was Israel's motive in JFK? He was going to deprive them of their nuclear capability. What's the connection? James Angleton, Jack Ruby, enough said. USS Liberty, what was their motive? Conceal their maneuvering in the Six-Day War. What was the connection? Well, they blew up the ship. Enough said. They blew up the ship. Enough said. 9/11, what was the motive? Get America into Iraq, and then Syria, and then Iran, and everywhere. What was the connection? They were dancing. You had thousands of art students apprehended in federal government buildings. Went to war the next day. The war plans were on Bush's desk the day before. Enough said. But this is why I'm skeptical about Charlie Kirk. I said on Thursday that I didn't like Charlie Kirk. He was my opponent. A lot of people that have never seen my show before said, why was Charlie Kirk your opponent? 6 years ago, I had my first interaction with Charlie Kirk in 2019. In the summer of 2019, I was banned from speaking at any Turning Point USA chapter or any Turning Point USA event. I didn't know why. I attended a party with Ashley St. Clair in September of 2019. I took a photo with her. She was a Turning Point ambassador at that time. When Turning Point caught wind that she was in a photograph with me, they terminated her from the ambassador program. I attended the Politicon event in, I believe, October 2019. I was physically removed from the event by a dozen police officers at the behest of Charlie Kirk. I had no idea why. In 2019, my followers began to attend Charlie Kirk's Q&A sessions at his college tour. We were much younger back then. He was younger, I was younger. It was 6 years ago, almost to the day. And my followers would approach Charlie Kirk and ask questions like, Google dancing Israelis. Why did Israel blow up the USS Liberty? They would say, should it be America first or Israel first? And they would press Charlie Kirk, among other things, on why he supported Israel. Now, in 2019, there was a very different Charlie Kirk than there is in 2025. In 2019, Charlie Kirk visited Israel and said he loved the food, the people, he wore the hat, he kissed the wall. In 2019, he went to donor events and said that, you know, the people, the land in America, they really mean nothing. America's about the Constitution. And if you gave a desert island with a desert island population the Constitution, that would be America. He said, but Israel's different. Their land, their people is holy and sacred, and their nationalism must be respected. This is what mainstream conservatism was in 2019. And there were very few people pushing back against it.
I don't know, like, why would he do this? Is it to, like, kind of kiss ass a little bit and maybe get some donations and support from, I don't know, like Jews or Israel or something? I don't know. You tell me in the comments, please.